Going to have a 25 player raid team. They're going to start kicking members and benching people or giving them social rank. Are they going to make people re-roll? Are they going to keep people, playing their warriors and rogues? Honestly, when the pre-patch drops, I think it's going to be pretty chaotic for a lot of guilds. But then again, there are other guilds who really seem to have it all planned out or put together, and they have a fairly decent plan because they're preparing now for the future, maybe even earlier than now. But overall, guys, the cold hard truth is that this min-maxing attitude is definitely going to carry over into TBC. It's there with the hardcore world first guilds. It's even there with fairly casual guilds. Okay, people just want to min-max at least a little bit, get a really good raid setup so that they can have a smooth raid night. Okay, because generally I just think people are very less patient these days. People are way more impatient, particularly when it comes to playing video games. People just want to clear the raids, get the gear, and then call it a night, right, as fast as possible. People will not patiently progress through Karazhan, wiping on bosses and everything like this, because first of all, a lot of people have probably already done it before, either on retail or on private servers. So most guilds probably will be trying to optimize their raid setup, which means they'll be looking down on rogues and warriors and prioritizing stacking warlocks and hunters. You may be thinking, well, there's all these people playing rogues and warriors, what are they going to do? Like, they are totally goosed. Well, I honestly don't think they're going to be. I think that's a bit of a misconception. I mean, firstly, most people who are raiding in Classic right now probably have an alt because they were so bored of staying logged out with world buffs, right? Let's be honest. So most people probably have at least one alt anyway. And, the same people who are playing Rogue and Warrior right now, but, it's fair enough, some of them are die-hard Rogue and Warrior fans have been playing that class for years and years, but a few of those people are just the kind of people who play, the flavour of the month class, and would be more than willing to re-roll into a Warlock or a Hunter, particularly as we also have the character boost dropping in the pre-patch. I think Blizzard are going to get a fat stack of cash, okay, and it's purely because a lot of people are going to, not have the time to level up a new character and want to have a raid ready class for TBC, and then they probably don't want to risk not getting a raid spot by continuing to play their rogue or their warrior. So I bet there's going to be loads of people boosting hunters and warlocks, maybe shamans obviously on the horde side. I think a lot of people are going to be taking advantage of that boost, and I think Blizzard know what they're doing with that boost because they know that a lot of people are going to want to re-roll for TBC because the meta totally changes, and like I said, they're going to make a lot of money from that. So there's going to be a big shift, okay? Rogues and warriors are the most populated class now, and that is definitely going to shift into becoming hunters and warlocks. And again, like, people have been coming to my stream and asking me, well, if I'm playing hunter or warlock, will I find it difficult to find a raid spot? People were saying a very similar thing before the classic launch, like, oh, don't play a rogue, you're going to find it difficult to get a raid spot. And honestly, I don't know why anyone would really say that, because I think as long as you're early to the party, I don't think you're going to struggle to get a raid spot. Guild leaders absolutely love the beams of hunters and warlocks, okay? You really can't, well, you can probably get too much of them, but like, if you're stacking 4 warlocks or 4 hunters, maybe even 5, you're not exactly letting the raid down. It's probably going to be very difficult for you to gear up all those, hunters and warlocks, but still, like, people will always take a hunter and warlock if they can, because they are just so ridiculously strong in TBC. I don't think you can struggle to get a raid spot that much, but if you are, scratching your underpants all the way up until the, TBC launch and then trying to find a guild, maybe more difficult. I would say sooner rather than later. If you're thinking about returning to TBC, do it now, get prepared, but the main thing, get a guild. Guilds are going to love it every time either a hunter or a warlock whispers them saying that they're looking for a guild, if I'm going to be honest. And if you're on a high populated server, I definitely think there's going to be guilds recruiting warlocks and hunters for a very, very long time. Okay, the avenue of getting a guild for a hunter and a warlock is probably going to be quite large. But do bear in mind, when TBC launches, it might be more difficult because people already have their raid setup sorted. So, a lot of people are also jumping into my streams right now saying, should I resub to Classic right now and start preparing? I definitely think you should be, or at least, if you don't have the time, maybe coming back and in the pre-patch to do some leveling when the leveling becomes faster. But yeah, you're definitely preparing now, and you definitely need to be looking for a guild right now, in my opinion. Well, maybe not right now, but at least in the pre-patch, because that's when I think a lot of guilds are going to absolutely nail down their, their core raid teams. Some people probably already have it sorted out now, okay? So my advice, honestly, would be, if you're thinking of coming back for TBC, sooner rather than later, and try and get yourself a guild. That should be your number one priority when it comes to TBC prep, is actually finding a guild, or obviously making your own guild. Obviously there are other classes like a shaman. A lot of guilds like to stack shamans because of all the buffs that they provide. I think they're going to be even overpopulated for the Alliance, to be honest. I mean, many low level shamans, they're going to get boosted going through the, over dungeons and everything. And you may be thinking, well, it's harder to boost people now because of the AoE, camp remover, whatever, that mages can't, grind their absolute living daylights out of dungeons anymore. Well, the meta, honestly, it's just going to change. It's just going to change, and what people are going to do is just going to use very well geared protection paladins instead. And you can definitely do some good boosts for a protection paladin even in Scarlet Monastery. It might get more difficult in the later levels, so yeah, like I said, the meta and the system of boosting will probably change, but it's definitely not going away. Okay, particularly as prop paladins, will first of all get buffed in the pre-patch, and then there's obviously the XP boost that comes in the pre-patch, and then obviously they can also get really good PvP gear, which has a decent amount of spell power, and then they could also, if they did manage to keep their Judgment gear or Avengers gear, they can use that gear as well, which is really good for a protection paladin, especially when it comes to boosting. Definitely think there's going to be a lot of big boy paladins doing boosts for the, people who wanted to re-roll a shaman on the Alliance side. And then when it comes to Horde, I still think paladins will be quite overpopulated. The boosting might not be as good, okay, on the Horde, but I still think mages will be able to cope with the AoE cap, to be honest. I still think they'll be able to cope. I think the boosting tactics will just likely change. I still think there's going to be a lot of boosting, okay, because like I said, a lot of people are either going to want to make a paladin or a shaman, and they don't want to go, 1 to 60 totally solo. But to end the video on a more positive note, I think this goes both ways, okay? Because I think the fact that people know, obviously now, what the absolute best in slot classes are, and we've known it for years and years, because TBC has technically been out for years and years, it's just getting re-released. People know hunters and shamans and warlocks are extremely powerful, which means the other specs will be more underappreciated. Okay, example, Shadow Priests, Boomkins, Ret Paladins, those great support classes. I think they will be even less populated than they normally are, simply because, many people want to play the